What if I told you your healthy breakfast might be silently killing your testosterone? Yes, really. If you're a man over 60 and you've noticed something slipping your energy, your morning drive, your confidence in the bedroom, it might not be your age at all. It might be your plate. I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to tell you the truth no one else will. Because some of the most common vegetables, yes, the ones you've been told are good for your heart, might be sabotaging your hormones, clogging your blood vessels, and turning down the dial on what makes you feel like a man. But here's the good news. Once you know what to avoid and what to eat, instead your body can bounce back fast. Before we dive in, do this for me. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because on this channel we go deeper than anyone else when it comes to men's health after 60. And if you're watching this right now, I want to hear from you. Type 1 in the comments if you've been feeling off lately and want answers. Or 0 if you think everything's fine, but you're still curious. You have no idea how powerful your voice is. All right, let's get to it. Starting with the first vegetable that's draining your testosterone without you even realizing it. Let's talk about the first vegetable you need to be cautious with. Soy-based vegetables. Now I know this might come as a shock, because for decades, soy has been praised as a healthy plant-based option. And in many ways it is. But here's the truth. They don't tell you if you're a man over 60, eating soy for breakfast could be one of the worst things you can do for your testosterone. Why? Because soy is packed with compounds called phytoestrogens, plant-based chemicals that mimic estrogen in your body. And when these fake estrogens flood your system, they push your natural testosterone down. Quietly, consistently, and dangerously. I remember a patient, let's call him Gerald. He was 68, retired, and still very much in love with his wife. But something was off. His words were quiet but heavy. "I still feel the same inside," he said. "But my body, it's just not showing up anymore." When we looked at his habits, the problem became clear. Every morning, Gerald was starting his day with soy milk in his coffee tofu scramble on whole grain toast and a side of edamame. On the outside, a picture of health. But inside, his hormones were under attack. Those phytoestrogens were quietly choking his testosterone, robbing him of the very spark that made him feel alive. We made a few simple changes. We removed the soy, added healthy fats, leafy greens, and testosterone-friendly foods. 2 weeks later, he walked into my office with a smile I hadn't seen before. "It's like I got a piece of myself back," he said. That moment, that confidence returning in his voice. That's why I do what I do. Now, soy doesn't harm everyone. But for older men, especially when eaten daily in the morning, it can absolutely dull your edge. And soy isn't the only so-called healthy food doing silent damage. Coming up next, a vegetable that looks elegant and harmless, but maybe quietly shutting down your circulation. Next on the list is a vegetable that seems almost too innocent to question. Eggplant. It's colorful, it's light, it shows up in plenty of health-focused cookbooks and Mediterranean-style recipes. But what most men over 60 don't realize is this eggplant belongs to a group of plants called nightshades. And for some older adults, especially those with mild arthritis or age-related sensitivities, these vegetables can quietly stir up inflammation in the body. Let me introduce you to Carl. He was 72, sharp-minded, full of energy, and deeply frustrated. He wasn't taking any major medications. His lab results were mostly fine. But something still felt off. He described it as a slow fade, less drive, longer recovery, and a feeling like his body just wasn't cooperating anymore. When we looked closer, we found his wife had recently switched their breakfasts to be more Mediterranean. It sounded perfect. Lots of olive oil, grilled vegetables, a little goat cheese. But there was one problem. Eggplant. Lots of it. Carl was eating grilled eggplant 4 mornings a week. And here's what was happening behind the scenes. Eggplant was triggering low-level inflammation. Not enough to cause pain, but just enough to narrow his blood vessels, including the small, delicate ones responsible for healthy blood flow where it matters most. That narrowing, it means less oxygen, less performance, less of the fire that makes you feel alive. Once we took out the eggplant and brought in anti-inflammatory greens and nitric oxide-rich foods, Carl came back a different man. I'll never forget his wink when he told me breakfast has been a lot more satisfying lately. That's the power of small changes. But we're just getting started. Coming up next, a vegetable that's praised as a cancer-fighting powerhouse. But when it's packaged the wrong way, it can quietly wreck your hormones. Now let's talk about a food that most people think is off-limits to criticism. Canned tomatoes. They're packed with antioxidants, they're heart-friendly, and they're often hailed as cancer-fighting superstars. And all of that is true if you're eating them fresh. But the moment they come out of a can, especially a can lined with BPA, the story changes completely. I want to tell you about Franklin. He was 66 years old, determined to clean up his diet. He swapped red meat for plant-based meals, replaced sugary cereal with eggs, and canned tomato salsa. He was proud of the change, but instead of feeling better, he felt worse. He came in complaining of low energy, no morning arousal, and a fading sense of vitality. When we ran his hormone panel, his testosterone levels were dropping. And the only thing that stood out in his routine? Those canned tomatoes. The cans weren't BPA-free. Now, BPA, or bisphenol A, is a synthetic estrogen. It's used in the lining of many canned goods, and it leaches especially easily into acidic foods like tomatoes. For men over 60, that's a recipe for trouble. BPA lowers testosterone. It increases belly fat. It narrows your blood vessels. All the things you don't want if you're trying to hold on to your strength, confidence, and sexual performance. Once Franklin made the switch to fresh tomatoes, or ones stored in glass jars, things changed fast. Within 2 weeks, his energy was back. His mood lifted. His mornings improved. And he realized it wasn't him. It was his food. So if you're still using canned tomatoes, especially without checking for BPA-free on the label, you're risking your hormones for a little convenience. But the next breakfast habit might be doing even more damage by spiking your sodium, squeezing your arteries, and cutting off circulation right where you need it most. Now, here's one that might bring back memories of your childhood. Pickled vegetables. Maybe your mom or grandma kept jars of them in the pantry. Or maybe you still enjoy a few pickled beets or cucumbers with your morning eggs. They're crunchy, tangy, and even refreshing. But if you're a man over 60, they might be doing more harm than you realize. Let me tell you about Warren. He's 70 years old, a retired firefighter, strong, disciplined, a man who's lived a life of service and structure. But lately he told me something was off. His words were quiet. "I feel disconnected from my body," he said. When we looked at his routine, one detail stood out. Every morning he added pickled vegetables to his breakfast, thinking they were low-calorie, gut-friendly, and harmless. What he didn't realize was that those pickled veggies were packed with sodium and acidic preservatives. Here's why that matters. Salt and preservatives can constrict your blood vessels and raise your blood pressure, and the first blood vessels to feel that pressure. The smallest, most delicate ones, especially the ones responsible for healthy blood flow below the belt. That means less sensitivity, less blood flow, and yes, less performance. So we cut them out, replaced them with potassium-rich vegetables that support circulation. Foods that nourish instead of dehydrate and restrict. 2 weeks later, Warren looked at me and said, "It's coming back." Slowly, but it's coming back. And that's what most men don't realize. Pickled foods in moderation. Sure. But starting your day with them, day after day, is like tying a knot around your own circulation and wondering why you don't feel like yourself anymore. But we're not done yet, because next up is a vegetable that's natural, earthy, and even romantic in some cultures. But when eaten at the wrong time, it can quietly strip your body of the nutrients your testosterone depends on. Let's move on to something that might surprise you. Raw onions. They've been praised for years for heart health, for antioxidants, and even for boosting circulation. And yes, onions can be incredibly good for you. But here's the part no one talks about. When eaten raw and on an empty stomach, they can do more harm than good. Let me introduce you to Douglas. He was 74 years old, thoughtful, curious, always reading about the latest health tips online. One morning he came across an article claiming raw red onions could naturally raise testosterone. So he gave it a try. Every day before eating anything else, he'd slice up some raw onion, throw it on toast, and wash it down with water. At first he thought he was doing something great for his body, but then strange things started happening. He began feeling bloated, heavy, gassy. His gut just didn't feel right. And worst of all, his energy dipped. His intimacy faded. Something wasn't clicking. He came to see me almost embarrassed. He whispered, "Maybe it's just my age." But after digging into his habits, it was clear what was going on. That raw onion, especially on an empty stomach, was irritating his gut lining. That irritation, it was messing with nutrient absorption, particularly zinc and B vitamins. And those aren't just any nutrients, they're critical for testosterone energy and sexual function. His body wasn't broken, it was starving for what it needed because it couldn't absorb the fuel. We made a small adjustment, shifted his onion intake to lunch or dinner, and made sure his breakfast included zinc-rich, gut-friendly foods. A week later, Douglas laughed and said, "Turns out timing really is everything." And he's right. The healthiest foods can backfire when used the wrong way. Coming up next, a superfood with a glowing reputation. That turns against your body when it's overcooked or microwaved. ChatGPT Jiao Noi. Let's talk about spinach. Yes, that's spinach. The one we've all been told is a nutritional powerhouse. And it is, when it's prepared the right way. But when you overcook it, or worse, microwave it, until it turns to mush, you're not helping your body. You're blocking it. Let me tell you about Steve. He's 69, a veteran. A man who took pride in his discipline, especially when it came to eating clean. Every morning he'd scramble eggs, steam a pile of spinach, and pop it all in the microwave. He thought he was doing everything right. But after a few months, something shifted. His drive was lower. His back felt stiff. His joints ached in ways they hadn't before. And in the bedroom, things just weren't the same. When we reviewed his labs, a key detail jumped out. His zinc levels had dropped significantly. So what happened? When spinach is overcooked or microwaved aggressively, it releases compounds called oxalates. Oxalates bind to minerals like calcium and zinc in your gut, blocking their absorption. And zinc. That's not optional. You need zinc for testosterone, for sperm production, for circulation. Without it, your performance suffers. Your recovery slows, your energy fades. Once we made a few adjustments, lightly sautéing the spinach instead of nuking it, and combining it with zinc-rich foods like pumpkin seeds and olive oil, everything started to turn around. Steve came back 2 weeks later and said, "My body feels like it's working with me again, not against me." And that's the power of preparing food with intention. Even the healthiest superfoods can backfire if you handle them the wrong way. Next up, a food that's often praised for boosting blood flow. But when eaten raw on an empty stomach, it can secretly tear down everything you've been working for. Let's take a closer look at spinach, the poster child for healthy eating. It's rich in fiber, packed with iron, and loaded with nutrients we've been told to eat since childhood. But here's the catch. When spinach is overcooked or microwaved until it wilts, it stops being your ally and starts working against you. Let me tell you about Steve. He's 69 years old, a retired veteran who prided himself on staying fit and eating clean. Every morning, like clockwork, he'd scramble a few eggs and mix in a big portion of steamed spinach, then microwave the whole thing. On the surface, it seemed like a perfect routine. But over time, Steve started feeling off. His energy wasn't the same. His joints ached. His desire faded. When we dug into his labs, one glaring issue stood out. His zinc levels had dropped sharply. Here's why that matters. When you overcook spinach or microwave it too long, it releases oxalates. These compounds bind to key minerals like calcium and zinc, blocking your body from absorbing them. And zinc is non-negotiable. It's essential for producing testosterone, for maintaining blood vessel health, and for keeping your performance strong and steady. Without enough zinc, everything slows down your recovery, your strength, even your intimacy. So we made two simple changes. First, Steve began lightly sautéing his spinach, just enough to soften it without destroying its structure. Second, he added zinc-rich foods like pumpkin seeds and olive oil to his breakfast. The difference: night and day. He came back weeks later and said, "I didn't know how good I could feel again." Spinach can still be powerful, but only when it's treated right. Next, we'll uncover a food that seems like the ultimate circulation booster. But eaten at the wrong time and in the wrong form, it can turn into a digestive nightmare. ChatGPT John Noy. Now, let's talk about garlic. It's one of nature's most celebrated superfoods. Used for centuries to lower blood pressure support, heart health, and boost circulation. And it absolutely can do all of that. But here's the paradox. When garlic is eaten raw, and especially on an empty stomach, it can quietly sabotage the very systems it's meant to support. Let me introduce you to John. He was 73, a retired engineer with a sharp mind and a steady routine. He walked daily, drank water, ate clean, and every morning he swallowed a clove of raw garlic with water. Why? Because he read online that raw garlic opens up blood vessels and boosts energy. But within weeks, things started to shift, and not in a good way. John developed digestive discomfort, acid reflux, bloating, and worst of all, his energy tanked, and his intimacy faded. He came in frustrated and confused. Everything looked fine on paper. But when we looked deeper, the garlic was the missing piece. Raw garlic, especially first thing in the morning, can irritate your stomach lining. That irritation leads to poor absorption of vital nutrients. In John's case, it affected his zinc levels and his nitric oxide production, both of which are essential for blood flow and sexual health. Once we made a small adjustment, switching from raw garlic to aged garlic extract, taken after breakfast instead of before everything changed. 2 weeks later, John called and said, "Doc, I feel 10 years younger, and my wife noticed too." And that's not uncommon. Garlic is powerful, but it has to be used the right way at the right time. Otherwise, it becomes a paradox, something that's supposed to help, but actually holds you back. Now that you've heard about the 7 vegetables that can quietly damage your testosterone circulation and energy, what should you eat instead? So now you're probably wondering, if those 7 vegetables are secretly holding you back, what should you eat instead? The good news: you don't need a complicated meal plan, a cabinet full of supplements, or a gourmet chef to turn things around. What your body needs is simple: real food, the right nutrients, and the right timing. Let me tell you about Robert. He was 71, tired of feeling sluggish, tired of waking up and not feeling like himself. We started with just 1 meal breakfast, and here's what we put on his plate: 2 soft-boiled eggs, a few slices of ripe avocado, lightly steamed broccoli, and a small handful of pumpkin seeds. That's it. No powders, no pills, just real powerful food. Why did it work? Because eggs give you protein and choline to support hormone production. Avocado brings healthy fats and potassium to boost circulation. Broccoli helps detox excess estrogen and supports testosterone balance. And pumpkin seeds. They're loaded with zinc and magnesium, two key minerals your body needs every single day. Within 2 weeks, Robert noticed a difference. Not just in his energy, but in his emotions. In his connection to his own body and to his wife. He said, "I didn't realize how disconnected I'd become until I started feeling like me again." And if you want to supercharge your mornings even more, try adding a small glass of beet juice or a warm cup of pomegranate tea. Both help open up your blood vessels, getting that blood flowing where it needs to go. This isn't just about breakfast. It's about reminding your body what it was always designed to do: heal, energize, and perform. If you've made it this far, I want to thank you from one man to another for choosing to listen. You've just uncovered the truth most men over 60 are never told: that some of the foods we believed were helping us may actually be holding us back. But more importantly, you've learned that it's not too late. You are not past your prime. You are not broken. You are simply standing at the edge of a new chapter. And every small decision, starting with what you eat in the morning, can send a powerful message to your body. A message that says, "I'm still here, I still care, and I'm not done yet." So if this video gave you clarity, hope, or even just a little nudge to take better care of yourself, I want to hear from you. Leave a comment below and let me know what part of this resonated most with you. Was it the truth about soy? The surprise about garlic? Or just the reminder that you still have power over your health? If you found this helpful, hit the like button. It helps more than you know. And if you're ready for more real talk like this, subscribe and turn on notifications. Because around here, we don't chase perfection. We chase truth, strength, and connection. Stay strong, stay sharp, and I'll see you in the next video.